And we are live. And hello, everyone. Welcome to Real-Time Talk with Eagle 3D Streaming. My name is Quentin, the host of Real-Time Talk. Today, we have David Burnet of INVIDAR as our guest for today's show. And you may have seen David around before in some of our networking events, and we're very lucky to have him today on the podcast. David is a multi-award winning real-time specialist, building the next generation of platforms for the metaverse as founder and director of INVIDAR. David comes with a background in game development and technology, focusing on XR platforms and interfaces with Unreal Engine. He is an avid PC enthusiast and an Unreal tinkerer with a lover of games. David, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to be back on one of Eagle's, streaming platforms again, and great to hopefully, talk to you and talk to everybody in the audience as well. If anybody's got any questions today, so I'm kind of taking over already, aren't I? So,
Yep.
So,
and it's a pleasure to have you here. David, if I may just share with the audience our format, and then we can get into a little discussion. So this is a live show, as everyone knows, and we always encourage real-time questions. This is, we are in the real-time world technology, so we really encourage questions during the show. If there's anything that you'd like to ask David specifically, he has a wealth of knowledge. As you'll see through the show, he has done some amazing projects in this space. So please, please, please don't hesitate to ask a question if you'd like us to discuss something specifically. But let's go ahead and get started. So David, as you told me, happy anniversary, 2-year anniversary.
yeah.
Can you just share a little bit about INVIDAR, how you guys started, and what you currently focus on?
Yeah, I mean it's been a wild journey so far. I mean we've just made it to 2 years, and the team are ecstatic. I mean it was we were founded in the pandemic, just when we had sort of got into lockdown in the sort of first versions of it. So everyone was very unsure, not sure where we're going to go. So I think it was just a case of I personally had lost my job at that point, so we eventually made INVIDAR, and it was a case of just trying it out. We had nothing to lose there, so we might as well try to deliver what we could. And it was it started off as any startup does, sleepless nights, a lot of hard work bringing in those projects. And fortunately, very early on, we scored some big names, working with some great companies, working with some great larger digital agencies as well. And we've just grown and been supported from there, from our wonderful base of sort of partners and clients and freelancers, and working with lovely people such as yourselves. We've managed to make it to 2 years and continue to work on these great projects. So it's been a wild ride so far. So I can't imagine where we're going to be in the next few years. It seems every year, or every week rather, we're kind of surpassing an expectation that we never thought we'd reach. So just got to keep going. So
absolutely,
here's the next year. So
yeah, well, no, it's an amazing ride. And I remember when we first initially connected, we were both sort of coming up a little bit. It was, Eagle and INVIDAR. Do you remember any sort of turning point where it was like, okay, this is for real? Things are really starting to pick up for us. Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, I think with everything, I mean, I think the turning point in terms of Pixel Stream, because I remember we did, I think when we first worked on our large project, the Milwaukee Hub, we started talking and really exploring the technology of Pixel Streaming. I think at that time it wasn't really cost effective. So I think the turning point there really was this kind of sort of cost effectiveness in terms of server loading, etc. So also having a company willing to go take that risk and really take that leap and try out this technology at a larger scale, because we do predominantly deal with B2B. So we're not doing some of our projects are smaller, couple CCUs, but really working with a large brand like Milwaukee to actually take that risk and say, hey, we want to deliver this to the masses. That was a massive step to take. So I think it was a combination of sort of price at that point in time, and just wanting to take that risk and really be innovative. I can't say that word, but innovative. So to push out that sort of technology. So.
Hmm. And do you remember or do you recall some of the first projects that you were working on, or what is, because we know
Yeah,
that you're XR, we know that you're Unreal. So what does that mean just project wise?
yeah. So I mean, project wise, we cover a lot of different areas. We predominantly kind of split ourselves up into three different areas. So we do all the kind of 3D side, so building for sort of real time. So that's traditionally like Maya, Max, etc., and Blender as well. So we've got all of those guys, all the fantastic artists that we've got, animations. Then we've got kind of our real time sort of area, so building of Unreal predominantly, but also with Unity as well. And then we've got kind of our development arm, which is our sort of full stack developers, making sure that we can take everything that we do in the real time and actually getting it onto platform, making sure it works for those kind of platforms. So we cover quite a wide array, and within that, sometimes it's XR platforms. So VR headsets, etc., doing some augmented reality apps. We cover quite a wide array in what we do, but it really is kind of specializing in sort of that real time aspect and having the ability to develop that platform or work within an existing platform with our developers, but also build the content with our 3D guys. And the sort of initial projects we'd had first, the first large one we had in was actually working with Smile on the Samsung Life Unstoppable event. And that was just supporting sort of 3D modeling, helping them build up that kind of portfolio for Samsung for their product release. And that probably was a real help at the start of INVIDAR, really launching us up with that kind of big name. And then we kind of immediately went into work with Milwaukee and have been working with them ever since, almost the inception of INVIDAR since that project. So yeah, and all along the way, to be fair, I mean, we've always looked at pixel streaming. It seems most of the majority of projects we look at either start off thinking about pixel streaming and eventually leading into it, or actually start it off as a key technology. So everything we've kind of seen, during the last 2 years that we've been there, we've kind of seen pixel streaming come up through the ranks as well, and sort of be a predominant technology. So yeah, I think that kind of covers it. So we seem to have, as I said, just go from strength to strength or success to success with everything we're working on. We do work on some smaller projects. We've worked on lots of our own demos, but yeah, these the brands are definitely in need of getting their own version of the metaverse or getting their own kind of virtual events up, sort of in their 3D world. So.
And we all know that your company has access to a lot of different technologies. There's a lot of different things that your team is capable of. What is it about pixel streaming that makes it interesting for your company in some of your projects? What does it help deliver or provide?
Yeah, I think in the biggest benefits really for pixel streaming seen from our clients is more around accessibility. So traditional means, if we've got a package on a website that we need to download, it's just much easier if we stream that to someone. It means the user doesn't have to have a high-end PC. They can also use it on mobile devices. It means their mobile doesn't have to be particularly high-end. They can just take a stream in. It just makes it overall much more accessible, both from a hardware perspective and from also a device sort of being agnostic kind of perspective as well. Because getting a stream onto a mobile, getting a stream onto a PC is a lot easier than getting a sort of custom 3D package onto either of those devices. Sometimes we'll have to build separate platforms for each, and there's a lot more management there. So sometimes, well, the majority of it is accessibility with pixel streaming.
So it's more of like a delivery mechanism to make experiences easily accessible.
Mm-hmm. So, and it also keeps it consistent as well, right? So when we're obviously, game developers will also have this kind of problem where, they're having to build to a certain platform. They want their minimum and max, minimum requirements to run their sort of application. With pixel streaming, if we know what it's running off, we know the hardware, we can build specifically for that platform. It's sort of building for console where we know exactly what the system can deliver. So we're going to try and get every FPS or every ounce of performance out of that system. So doing that for pixel streaming means we can really stress test it and get every ounce of performance out of that. Whereas again, building for people that have custom PC at home, it could be a variety of specs, and we want to make sure that we're delivering a consistent and high quality experience to everybody. So pixel streaming just really kind of ties that in a neat bow in a lot of areas for us.
Hmm. And I can't help but notice that you have a drill in your background, which is Milwaukee Tools, which you have done an amazing project for. Can you tell us anything about that project and what it
Yeah, so
was?
the Milwaukee Hub has been an amazing project. And props to Milwaukee and also our two major partners on the project, Maxim and MOUK, who have we've all kind of grouped together to develop this project. It's been an amazing project. So essentially, what the Milwaukee Hub does sort of culminates in for Milwaukee is sort of a sales platform or something for their business to business users, which has actually just been released to their consumers as well. So it is currently live. It is currently accessible. The job site is still up, what we refer to as their kind of virtual job site, rather, sorry, which is a pixel streamed environment where you can walk around and interact with Milwaukee's latest products. I believe there's about 15 there at the moment. So do go check it out. It is still live for a limited time. But it has been live for 6 weeks, so it's a long experience up there. But it brings together all of Milwaukee's latest tools. It brings together tech sheets, users' testimonials, live streaming. There's a whole complete e-learning management, e-learning in there as well. It really does cover a lot of different areas and pulls a lot of these resources together for anybody that's really enthusiastic about Milwaukee Tools as a consumer or any of their kind of business users as well to come in and really find out everything there is to possibly know about a particular tool. So it is a truly complete platform for those kind of users.
So I think one question that's probably on a lot of people's minds, is that a metaverse? The
Yeah, so I
Milwaukee
suppose,
Tools
I suppose
experience.
Yeah, so I suppose it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because at the moment, a lot of these pockets of, and this isn't just with Milwaukee, this is what we're seeing in a lot of retail spaces. There are these sort of what we traditionally know as metaverses, people that can go and access and then have kind of their location in the metaverse. And then there are these kind of pockets that aren't quite attached yet to other places. So you could, I would be more than happy saying that Milwaukee's got its own kind of carved out, specialized Milwaukee metaverse, or kind of virtual environment, virtual interaction, whatever we want to call it. And I suppose as soon as we make that accessible through an existing, maybe larger metaverse program, then it would become what people more think of as the definition, having these larger collective experiences all sort of met in one place. I always bring back to sort of the Ready Player One aspect where you've got all these different portals to take off all into these different directions. But I suppose on its kind of own, on its standalone, it kind of is its own for the moment. But it is ready to go into that. And I think when there is an appropriate platform where we can start to see a lot of these experiences come together, something that's a bit more open, we'll really start to see that take off. But I think as it is at the moment, how it's defined, I think it does. I think it is its own at the moment. So.
And do you think that now that you've kind of had this project underneath your belt, do you think that, or what would you say the next step in terms of evolution of these types of experiences could be? If we would then begin to think about what's taking this to the next level, what does that look like?
I think, yeah, just having it a lot more easily accessible. I mean, we're seeing a lot of these experiences that we're obviously doing for desktop and pixel streaming. A lot of these experiences aren't necessarily in VR at the moment. So seeing them across a few more different platforms, I think is certainly going to help. I think projects like the digital twin projects, which we're seeing a lot of as well at the moment, as soon as we start getting those all of those data, all those real world places into these kind of collectives, these kind of metaverse collectives, I think we'll start to see sort of the next generation of that come together. I think there needs to be like a big shift for everybody to focus on one kind of area. In terms of the next generation, I mean, definitely got Unreal Engine 5 that we've been looking forward to using. I think we're definitely going to see some higher fidelity. We're going to start to see even more realism than what we've been used to as well. I mean, there were lots of papers back in the day saying what we need to sort of aim for with hardware-wise, but also the graphics. And now we're starting to see at the point where it's beginning really hard to tell what's real and what's not from real time. So, I think going back to the Ready Player One thing, I mean, we're not far away from having that realism. So,
Yeah, I know. And Ready Player One is probably one of my favorite movies that I watch
Mm,
all the time, and we are, I don't know, probably closer to it than far away from it at this point. Um,
mm.
so one of the client or one of the questions sometimes our enterprise clients ask us, and I'd love to get your input on it, is how does an enterprise company enter the metaverse? What does that even mean? Because there is kind of like an element of hype around the metaverse, and a lot of enterprise companies are seeing that J.P. Morgan is now in Decentraland, and how do we enter the metaverse? So when customers come to you with that question, what kind of guidance or insight do you like to provide?
Yeah, I think it's like any other product, any other kind of service that we would deliver for enterprise clients. It's a case of, is it a case of just missing out, or is it a case of what's the goal here to be had? How are you going to measure success with this? Is it is it a case you want to reach X amount of people? Is it a case you just want to have your mark there? So I mean, it's certainly something like the metaverse, like cryptocurrency, like blockchain. It's certainly something that I would recommend any kind of company to be looking at. You can't turn a blind eye to these kind of things. You must be keeping at least an eye on it, even if you're not part of it. So, I mean, if any company is asking these questions, is the right thing to start doing, to start exploring,
Mhm.
even if it's just sort of dipping your toes in. But it is just a case of, if they're going to invest in it, what are the value they're trying to provide for their customers? What are they trying to kind of say? Is it real estate in a metaverse environment, or is it actually something that's going to provide something for their sort of customers, and or is it going to provide data back to them? So, which varies for every enterprise partner, but we're at the point now where we can start doing it cost effectively as well. And I think that's also the other question that we see is a case of how much of cost is so
Mm.
what's the upkeep and what's the
Yeah. So maybe there's no right or wrong way to do it, but maybe just consider what's right for my company, my enterprise,
mm,
and see if it makes sense. And it may start to make more sense because costs are going down a little bit
mm,
with doing these
mm.
experiences.
Yeah, I think
Um,
again it comes back to the accessibility as well, doesn't it? So making sure it is accessible. Looking at Oculus's sales, for example, for VR, they outsold was it Xbox last year. Making sure people actually have these platforms in their homes to be able to access these kind of experiences, to access dystopia. But yeah, it's just making sure that there's a platform there for the people as well. So 2 years ago, this might not have been worth it, but now, might be. So time to change.
and did I hear that right? You said Oculus sold more headsets than Microsoft sold Xboxes?
I believe, don't quote me on that, but I believe last year Oculus Quest 2 did outsell one of the console platforms. So,
Holy crap.
so to think about that as well. I mean, it's like cryptocurrencies as well. Going twice as fast as the internet did back in the day, I believe as well. Again, don't quote me on that. These are ones that I read offline as well. I really need my sources to be backed up. But if that is the case, then all the technology is growing, exponentially. Where we're going to be in 5-10 years time with these headsets hanging around, because we've got multiple generations that are going to feed back through. It seems like we're going to have a lot of these devices around, so it kind of makes sense that something's going to grow out of it with it. Where we've got the next generation of the internet as well. So.
How exciting is that? And yeah, I mean,
Mm.
VR is kind of, I mean, it's blowing up. Do you think that it'll be a point where you'll only enter the metaverse through VR, or do you think it'll be any device? It could be a desktop, it could be a VR, it could be a mobile device. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It depends. It depends what definition, and these definitions are constantly evolving and sort of changing. Um, I mean, it is depending whether we want a complete immersed experience in VR, or whether we do access it through the eyes of a camera lens, or whether we do view on desktop. Is that then being in the metaverse? I think we definitely could consider it, and I think it is, as I said earlier, about having that accessibility across the platforms to be able to enter into these areas. I think it does need to be, for sort of the next generation of that, we do need to have it kind of across different platforms. So um, I think that will be the case. But so I think, again, for now, people are still thinking of it through VR, etc. But I think it should be, through desktop, etc. as well, accessible.
Gotcha, gotcha. Um, and then, so with the Milwaukee experience that your team delivered, if I've heard correctly through grapevine that it was, is it currently a finalist for the XR
Yes,
awards, or
yes.
can you share a little bit about, what is that award, and then how's it being considered, and what does that mean?
Yep. So again, working with fantastic partners with yourselves and with our two major partners, MOK and Maxim, on the Milwaukee Pub project and Milwaukee themselves. We have now finalised as an XR one of the XR awards, which are some brand new awards from XR today. They're quite a large publication that have grown massively throughout the pandemic as well. And yeah, we're up against some really big players, and that is for the best collaboration solution. So it's appropriately fitting for the amount of people that actually worked on the hub. So yeah, we're ecstatic. I mean, I know it's our name up there, but it's a team effort between all the companies, and just to be nominated for those awards, and there are some huge people up for those that are finalised as well, is already a massive achievement. So.
Well, fingers crossed and best of luck.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
Hmm.
But it is an amazing project. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, and because you had shared a concept on LinkedIn, it was a hybrid multiplayer VR desktop experience.
Uh,
What is that, and what barriers does that begin to break down, or what was the concept? What were you thinking along that?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, we're actually spending some time on R&D, actually working on some different concepts and actually working on a little prototype game. We're just trying to sort of have some fun during the team at the moment. And we usually, when we work on these projects, have all these different creative ideas. So we need to try and put them into action when we can. And I don't want to say too much about it, actually, because I think it's quite a unique idea. So I do apologize to the viewers, but I'm going to try and keep that in the house a little bit. But it is something to do with VR. It is working on focusing on a soul mechanic, which we know of the likes of like Superheart and like Don't Talk and Nobody Explodes, if anybody's heard that game as well. It's kind of that kind of era. So, and it is a multiplayer game working between VR and desktop. So it's should hopefully be quite cool if we can get a demo out. So, and you never know as well. We are looking at the pixel streaming as well into VR as well to see if we can get that done. Is also one of the goals of looking at it as well. So
Yeah.
looking at new technologies.
Yeah, and that'll kind of be the holy grail, is if once the day that we're able to pixel stream into VR at an acceptable latency, or what do you think? What are your thoughts around pixel streaming into VR?
Yeah, again, I think it's like web apps and mobile phones. If we're not having to depend on platforms and we can just have these experiences through a URL, it's going to make these applications a lot more accessible to a much wider audience. It's going to reduce or remove a lot of these barriers that some people may have if they can't get their app necessarily up to Oculus or HTC, or even on Steam or any of these other platforms. They might be able to upload it and host it themselves, and then just share a URL out to their fan base. So it might, hopefully, if it's available and does work to a point where it's not causing any nausea, etc., then it could actually, for a lot of independent developers, could be quite groundbreaking and changing. So,
Yeah.
so very exciting to see if we can get it working to the point where we're happy. So.
Yeah. And Steven Spielberg made it look so easy in Ready Player One, but that is an incredibly hard feat to achieve, pixel streaming into VR.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing.
I mean, you think about it as well. I mean, every day we seem to be, or every year rather, we seem to be coming up with something new that's sort of helping. I mean, you think of all these people that are running around in Ready Player One got their motion tracking. Back when first generation headsets were out, we had to have physical sort of setups and cameras looking at us. Now we've got inside out tracking. There are little things that are starting to break down these barriers that are just making things easier and simpler for users every day, every year. So, maybe in a 10, 20 years time, you never know.
I know.
Yeah.
It always seems like it's going to be happening faster,
So
than it's, people are expecting. So for people that are watching that are maybe thinking about creating a metaverse, or they have, a metaverse project that they're considering, do you have any advice or insight just based on your understanding and your deep knowledge of the metaverse from the projects you've done? Anything that you'd say is kind of important to be thinking about or watching out for?
I think a lot of it is just develop. Like even if you've got a small idea, you just need to try and do a prototype, try and do lots of small projects. If you're not working on a major project at the moment, do try to develop those ideas. Do jot them down. Do have a look at the current technology. Do plan it out. I think it is just about sort of rinse and repeat. If that doesn't work and it's failed, great, you've learned something from that, take it on to the next one. It's like concepts that we have with sort of game jams, right? What can you do in 48 hours? What can you do? Can you build a game every month for the next year, and then you've got 12 mini games in the end of it? I think it is all just about sort of iterating on every kind of idea to try it out. So from a development perspective anyway, and then once you've got your experience, there's plenty of platforms that you can go down and choose to kind of upload it. And I think there's so many platforms now, whether it be through ArtStation, LinkedIn, as it were, that you can share and or show off your project, or put up onto Steam or put up onto the Epic Marketplace. There's so many people that are willing to help now to get these experiences out. There's plenty of open metaverse that we can add these projects into as well. I think it is just all about building, and I think there is a reason why 3D viewers and stuff are default in Windows now. It is going to become a key skill. So just develop, and then once you're ready, once you're happy with something, tell the world. So
yeah, no, that was awesome. So just in terms of what's on the plan for INVIDAR, do you know what's next, or what your plan is, or where you're going to focus on next?
Well, I mean, we didn't know how far we would get in the pandemic, and we're kind of seeing where the flows are. We are speaking with people every day to try and look at cool new exciting projects. There's a lot of stuff going in the virtual production world. There's been a lot of stuff going in there, so we are looking at a few projects at that as well. There's a lot of simulation work as well that we're looking at, so bringing old traditional forms back into the 3D real-time space. So yeah, wherever the projects take us, we're looking to work on just cool projects. So
cool. Yeah, virtual production meets metaverse. That kind of sounds like a good combination.
Yeah, I mean, we have looked at taking direct streams into virtual environments already. We know we can do it, and so we know we've been able to do that for some time. So. And actually load in stuff from different repositories into Unreal, which is probably something we haven't talked about as much, but we are well versed in taking external data out into Unreal in real time in a virtual live event. So there's a lot of that stuff that kind of crosses over, so which is very exciting.
Awesome. Well, I still can't believe how detailed and in depth the Milwaukee project was. I mean, just from the back end all the way to the front end. I mean, you guys killed it. It was a really awesome, well put together experience. We're wrapping up on our 30 minutes. It goes by pretty quick. Anyone who's watching this, can you let them know how to get in touch with you in case they may have a project or something to discuss? What would be the best way to reach out to you?
Best way is LinkedIn always for me. I'm checking my LinkedIn constantly. Is how we do the majority of our work. So LinkedIn there, you'll find a website, message me directly, or you're always more than happy to email me at David@INVIDAR, and you'll find me. So
excellent. Well, David, thank you so much for taking the time to pop in and chat with me a little bit about what you guys are up to. I mean, you have one of the most robust projects I've ever seen in the metaverse. So my hat goes off to you. And thank you, everyone, for joining. This has been Real-Time Talk with Eagle 3D Streaming. And catch us on the next episode, where we will be speaking with Cesar Fragachan from Zaha Hadid on his real-time configurator. Thank you, everyone. Talk to you next time. Thank you, David.
Bye-bye. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye, everyone.